Hello and welcome to the Commander's Quarters, your Magic the Gathering source that helps you command your budget. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all their support. Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander's Quarters studio. Welcome to the show. So Kaldheim's official spoiler season has finally launched, and we have some really exciting ones to already talk about on the very first day. Anyways, a spoiler warning just in case you don't want to see spoilers from Kaldheim, although you probably already saw the title as well as the thumbnail, and then you still clicked on it, so you probably know it's going to be a spoiler. But yeah, let's jump into it. So we've got an exciting brand new type of MDFC that's modal dual face card, Valki God of Lies / Tibalt Cosmic Impostor, to my knowledge the very first creature / planeswalker MDFC. And just a reminder with MDFCs, these are the kinds of cards that you can choose to play either side. So let's talk about the front side first with Valki God of Lies, a 2/1 god that costs 1 and a black. When Valki enters the battlefield, each opponent reveals their hand. For each opponent, exile a creature card that they revealed this way until Valki leaves the battlefield. And then by paying X, you choose a creature card, exile with Valki with converted mana cost X, and Valki becomes a copy of that card. And the backside shows that Valki is actually everyone's favorite planeswalker, Tibalt. Tibalt Cosmic Impostor has 5 starting loyalty, and he costs 5 black-red. As Tibalt enters the battlefield, you get an emblem with you may play cards exile with Tibalt Cosmic Impostor, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast those spells. Tibalt's +2 is exile the top card of each player's library, the -3 is exile target artifact or creature, and the -8 is exile all cards from all graveyards, add red, red, red. So there's a lot going on here, but let's break it down. First off, I'm not sure if this has been officially confirmed yet, but I'm sure that this can be your commander because the other MDFC that was spoiled earlier is also commander eligible, so let's just go with that. And I would assume that the color identity of Valki God of Lies / Tibalt Cosmic Impostor is Rakdos, but again, I am not 100% positive on that. But for this episode's purposes, let's go on that assumption. So this Rakdos deck is going to be all about exiling your opponent's things and either making Valki copies of them or using Tibalt to cast them. Now, how effective is this deck going to be at doing both? I'm not so sure. Valki does exile 1 creature on ETB from each opponent, but those creatures go back to their owner's hands when Valki leaves the battlefield. And also, if you cast Valki early and it dies, then yeah, your commander tax is going to go up for either side that you cast. And the backside, the more powerful side with Tibalt, already costs 7, and costing 9 isn't that great. So if you put Valki down early, yes, you might be able to make it a copy of a creature that can be pretty powerful, but just know that you are taking a risk. So let's jump into the front side first and talk about certain cards that might interact well with the Valki side. If you really want to focus on exiling creatures from your opponent's hands and then making Valki copies of them, then you're probably going to want to make sure that they actually have good creatures in their hands. So there aren't really too many ways to do this. I mean, you could bounce a good creature back to the opponent's hand, or you could force tutor something like Head Games. It says target opponent puts the cards from their hand on top of their library, search that player's library for that many cards, the player puts those cards into their hand, then shuffles their library. So yes, for 5 mana, you can go get specific creatures or whatnot, but again, this is a lot of setup and a lot of workaround, and you still have to actually pay to make Valki that creature. So the process of cast Head Games, cast Valki, pay to make a copy is a lot of work. Now, if you still want to get Valki out early, which can be effective because you are denying your opponents each of a card, I recommend having some safety measures like Erratic Portal. And just a quick note with this one, there are slightly less efficient versions of this, but they might be a lot cheaper because this one's, I believe, around $10. Anyways, Erratic Portal has pay 1 and tap it, return target creature to its owner's hand unless its controller pays 1. So this can help out in multiple ways. Again, if you want to build around that front side, bouncing an opponent's creature back to their hand can be a very good thing, but more importantly, saving Valki is really important. Because again, if Valki dies and you've got to recast from the command zone, the Tibalt side's going to cost more too. And to me, that risk really isn't worth it, so I'd probably more so focus on the back of this card. And that again is the Planeswalker side, the Tibalt Cosmic Impostor side. You get Tibalt out, you exile some things, you cast those things, and so on and so forth. So with this deck, I think that you really want to focus on ramping a ton. Not only will it help you get Tibalt out early, but it's also going to help you cast a lot of your opponent's things. So outside of, say, Soul Ring, use some other efficient mana rocks like Ward Power Stone, 3 Dynamo, and Gilded Lotus. Again, with a deck like this, if it's working correctly, you really can't have enough ramp because you're always going to have access to spells to cast as long as you've exiled things with Tibalt. And keep in mind that even if Tibalt gets dealt with, you still have that emblem in play. Now, obviously, Tibalt does have 3 different ways to exile things. The first is that +2 exile the top card of each player's library. So you basically get access to 4 cards every time you do this, including one of your own. The -3 is more of a targeted approach, getting you 1 artifact or creature exiled. Now, although it's not the best idea to focus on an ultimate, that is a really big payoff for this deck with that -8. You exile all cards from all graveyards, and then you also just get 3 mana on top of that. So like many other Planeswalker decks, this deck is really looking to control the board. And that can really benefit you to not only protect Tibalt, but also to fill those graveyards. So with all that mana that you're going to be generating, you can cast a big X board wipe like Starstorm, or just casting Garruk's Wake and get rid of, well, all your opponent's things. You protect Tibalt to get to that ultimate, and then you can just exile those creatures and have access to them. You can also get access to cards in your opponent's hands by making them discard them with things like Magus of the Wheel and Sire of Insanity. Magus of the Wheel and other wheel effects force all players to discard their hand and then draw a certain number of cards, usually 7. And then Sire of Insanity just basically says players can't have hands. Just be careful when you cast that because that affects you too. But blowing up things and forcing opponents to discard is definitely a good way to control the game. Now, you don't want to stretch your strategy too thin, but you might want to consider some mill cards like Mindcrank. It says whenever an opponent loses life, that player puts that many cards from the top of their library into their graveyard. So you can essentially get access to more cards if you can ultimate your commander. But again, I definitely haven't built out this deck entirely, so I'm not sure if that would spread you too thin trying to go into too many strategies. Regardless, let's talk about some similar commanders to this one, and there are a few. The first one I want to talk about is actually a recent commander from Commander Legends with Tevesh Szat, Doom of Fools. Tevesh Szat's ultimate is -10, gain control of all commanders, put all commanders from the command zone onto the battlefield under your control. So this is also a planeswalker that wants to control things, especially controlling commanders, and then winning from there. In comparison, Tibalt might give you access to more cards, but remember that you still have to cast them. But the commander that this reminds me most of has got to be Send Triplets. Send Triplets has, at the beginning of your upkeep, choose target opponent. This turn, that player can't cast spells or activated abilities and plays with their hand revealed. You may play lands and cast spells from that player's hand this turn. So yeah, a commander that wants you to cast your opponent's things, that definitely is reminiscent and can definitely rub a few players the wrong way. Now, unlike Send Triplets, I think there's a lot of more things that you have to actually work around to actually make Tibalt work properly. Yes, you can get the top card of each library or a specific artifact or creature, but again, I think that the big payoff again is that ultimate. So you definitely have to do some setup to make it as effective as something like Send Triplets. Now, when it comes to the front side, the very first commander that reminded me of was Lazav the Multifarious. When Lazav enters the battlefield, surveil 1, pay X, Lazav becomes a copy of target creature card in your graveyard with a converted mana cost of X, except its name is Lazav the Multifarious. It's legendary in addition to its other types, and it has this ability. Again, somewhat similar, Valki wants to become copies of your opponent's creatures that you exile from their hand, and Lazav wants to become copies of your own creatures from your graveyard. So what's my initial gut feeling for this commander? What kind of power level can we expect? Well, my apologies to the God of Lies and the Cosmic Impostor, but I think that this commander isn't going to be that powerful. Again, I don't think that this is a commander that you can really utilize both sides all that effectively. Getting Valki out early might be great early, but again, if Valki dies, it's going to cost you a lot to cast Tibalt. And again, the Tibalt side requires a good amount of setup to be effective, and it can rely pretty heavily on that ult. But again, this is just my initial gut feeling, and I could be very wrong. And with that, the show has come to a close, so it's my turn to hear from you, so make sure you comment below and let me know what your thoughts on this episode are, and as always, thanks again and have a good one.